All right, so this is kind of like a part two to my Nvidia video, talking about how they cut production of graphics cards by 40%. Okay, again, so this just to clarify here though, that this article right here is a rumor. This is not true, but it's not hard to believe. It really isn't. If we're talking about Nvidia here, this is not hard to believe. But the rumor is that Nvidia reportedly no longer supplying VRAM to its GPU board partners in response to the memory crunch. Again, though, it's just a rumor. I think it was somewhere on Reddit that someone said this, or it was just a rumor spread around the internet. But if this would happen, if this happens, we would have to. I don't know how to apply the practice itself. I'm fairly new to all of this, but my assumption would be that we would buy the GPU board and then buy the VRAM, I guess. Which, what? This is all because of the RAM shortage, of the memory shortage. It's like a chain of effects happening over and over again. You think it stops there with the 40% cutting in production? No, it increases. It's getting worse, in fact, and things are only getting more expensive. So let's talk about why this is being talked about. And just like I mentioned, this is about memory, RAM. So GPU has their own kind of RAM, VRAM, stuff like GDDR6 and GDDR7. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So you know how motherboards or how RAM sticks have like DDR5, DDR4, GPUs have GDDR6 and GDDR7. So the graphics cards GPUs for memory, they're for the performance of GPUs, while the regular RAM is for the performance of your CPU for your computer, right? So the shortage of memory isn't just about RAM sticks, it's about all kinds of memory. So that applies to memories in GPU. The supply of GDDR6 and 7 have been rather tight, okay? And again, this is all because of AI data centers having high demand for consuming a lot of memory production. That's why you see companies like Crucial putting all their RAM into AI, hoping to make a lot of money from that. So Nvidia probably can't afford VRAM as much as they are hoping to. Well, they're making more money regardless. And that's why we might only get the board, not the VRAM. Again, this is a horrible thing. I would hate this. If you're planning on buying some GPUs, I'd hurry it up if I were you, because it's not looking too good. I think buying a 30 series and 40 series, a 40 series are really expensive right now, as they've always been. A 30 series just don't really cut it anymore, in my opinion. I'm rocking a 2060 right now. I'm already upgrading to a Radeon 9070 XT. My 2060 can barely handle any of the new games. It really can't. Everything is low graphics, low resolution, and it's just, I get high frame rate from doing that for like hero shooters and stuff, but for like actual story games with like combat and everything else, it's not a fun experience. When you're playing a hero shooter and you're playing to be more competitive, I don't mind having horrible ass graphics and high frame rate. I'm there to like, focus more on the controls and the system of everything. But for a single player RPG game, yeah, I want my game to look nice. So that's kind of the main reason as to why I'm upgrading, but also I'm into content creation. So the videos I make, a 2060 can't handle the videos I make. It can't process videos at a higher quality, higher resolution. So editing videos is going to be difficult for me right now when I don't have the right graphics cards. I use DaVinci Resolve, if you were wondering, I guess. But this also applies to stuff like streaming, recording, editing videos. So graphics cards right now, from like 20 to 30, I just don't think they're worth it at the moment. And Nvidia, I don't know. It just seems like everything, all the modern stuff is super expensive, but all the older stuff is just too old really to keep up with the modern games. So that's kind of why I'm like putting my hopes on AMD instead of Nvidia, because AMD, while they are increasing their prices for GPUs right now, which I'll talk about very soon, it's not to the extent of Nvidia. If you look it up right now on Nvidia, they will have a graphics card for the 5070 regular for like, I think 500 to 600 bucks. But the increase in VRAM is up by 200. For the Radeon 9070 XT, that cost only 600 something bucks. But AMD is also raising their prices for some things, and I'm sure that involves the memory shortage as well. So let's look at that right now. So AMD raises Radeon RX 9000 GPU prices, increasing by 10 bucks for every 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Again, I think when it comes to price raising, it's always sucky, but at least it's not as bad as what Nvidia is doing. $10 for every 8 gigabytes of VRAM is actually really not that bad compared to the increasing price of other graphics card companies. I'm mainly talking about Nvidia here. For Intel, I don't know. In fact, I think Intel is actually doing better right now as well, and I'll go over that very soon, or in another video, I think. But yeah, I don't know. When it comes to AMD, I think I'm beginning to prefer them. In my case personally, I don't really care that much about ray tracing or the difference of high versus ultra graphic settings. That's really not on my priorities at all. And going from an RTX 2060 to an AMD, AMD 9070 XT is already a crazy jump, okay? And it keeps up with modern gaming and modern video technology as well. So I have no gripes with them, really. I have no problems buying AMD products, but Nvidia, if I were to buy an Nvidia GPU right now, I'd feel like I'm getting ripped off. I really would. VRAM is very important, so it's kind of crazy that they're only applying $10 more for every 8 gigabytes of VRAM. So I don't know. I'm still sticking to the AMD prices, an AMD company in general, but I might check out Intel and see what they're offering too, because I'm hearing good things about them. But yeah, so that's all I got right now. Things are really looking just weird, very weird. Let me know in the comments, based off the history and price raisings of these companies, out of all the three, okay, Nvidia, Intel, and AMD, which ones are you most likely to be going to now after everything is done here? Okay, for me, I'm hoping that I stay on AMD. Well, okay, I'm saying staying, but I haven't even tried AMD yet. I'm taking a risk here, like changing companies, but to me, it doesn't seem that hard to change my decision here. But Intel also seems like a very interesting choice, so I will probably look more into Intel and see what they're offering and see how they're doing, in fact. But Nvidia, man, it's only a rumor, but again, it's not hard to believe. So if we end up in a future where Nvidia is selling GPU boards only and not the VRAM, that's just gonna be really, really bad. And bad for them. I feel like their business would be horrible after this. Like, would people really buy from Nvidia after, you know, other companies have better values for prices, even after the price raising from AMD? It feels like a lot of people might switch over to AMD, in fact, but maybe I'm just talking out of my ass or something. If you have any thoughts of your own, let me know down in the comments, and I'll read them. I read every comment. I like every comment. Just trying to engage the guys as much as I can, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.